Good morning, actually, good afternoon, my family, and welcome to our afternoon version of the MoB Kaffeeklatsch episode 142. Thank you all for being here. We may have a smaller group today because we moved down by an hour. I had to go to the doctor and get some blood drawn. Let's see if I can. Can't even see it. You see that little dot there, right there? That was where they got the blood. And that was basically it. So let me say hi to everyone. Hold on a second. It's a little laggy today, but that's technical difficulties. These things happen. All right, here we go. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Heather. Welcome, Audrey. Good morning, Paige. Good morning. Yeah, it was really lag. It was even worse earlier. Jeanette, good early morning, Jeanette, because it's still morning. What's on the shirt? This is an Odin. It's a crow. Can't see if you can see the whole thing. So it's a crow in a circle. So it's a Celtic crow, and it has elements of Celtic knots and stuff. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, the weather's. I don't know. We have nice weather, but it's just sometimes it acts funky. Good morning, Dawn. Hi to Dawn, to you, and the whole crew, Dawn. Just everyone, I say hello. Ace, yeah, today it's hot. As you can see, I have the fan behind me because I'm cooking right now. And so my adventures of the morning was I went to go get my blood drawn because I had a G flare and it was acting like, was it severe? It was pretty bad, right? Yeah, it was bad. Thank you, Anne. And yeah, the limp was powerful. It's like messing with my walking. Daddy was like, call a doctor, get a telehealth thing. So I did that. The doctor said, okay, go get your blood work done and then come see me on Monday. I was like, Monday? This Monday? Wow. Because he's usually booked months. And then I told him it's gout. And he said, I don't think it's gout. And Dolly was like, it's gout. So, and then I got prednisone. For those of you, I'm doing the medical jargon. I got some prednisone and I took one tablet, 20 milligrams, and everything went away. I don't know, like about an hour or so, everything went away. And Dolly was like, if it wasn't gout, it wouldn't react that way. So it's gout. So we'll see what happens. See on Monday what he says. I had to take pictures of my legs and everything because I didn't actually see him. We did a tele thing. So yeah, it'll be fun. How are you all doing? I'd like to know. Mazes and Monsters is in mid-shred, which is awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gout. We'll see. I'll let everyone know on Monday after he's. I don't know what he's gonna say that's different from what I've been doing the research. Dolly's been doing the research. We've been looking at it and the actual symptoms. I'm pretty sure it's gout. I mean, it's not like devastating to life. I just have to make sure I monitor it, and then like being able to walk without a cane or limping around like Quasimodo, like and being able to train and being able to walk is the important thing. Yeah, I'm listening to Dolly for sure because she said it's gout. She didn't even think about it as gout. So I can answer some questions about Mazes and Monsters as long as it doesn't spoil the story. Definitely, I will, Jeanette. And there's that one little situation in Mazes and Monsters about them going into Shadow Peak and not dying, and how other mages can go in there, and this whole kind of Megillah of a thorny problem that I had to kind of deconstruct and reconstruct and fix it and pull it and look at it from different angles that I managed to do, which is good. I did manage to get it settled. So if you read the final story, not the one that's in the art now, the final story, you'll see that problem was resolved. And there's a little sticking point about how old is Byron, how old is Dex, and that stuff is a little vague right now, but it will get resolved over the next, to see, Mason's March 27, so 28, 29, 30. It starts getting resolved around book 30 and gets resolved. The actual ages start getting resolved around book 34. So, but the story. I was stuck in that forest for I don't know how long. It was insane. Hello, Connie. Welcome. Don't feel bad. It's we started late today, so it's okay. I was stuck in that forest for so long. It was ridiculous. I mean, at one point I thought maybe the book is just. What did you? Dali was like, just end it right there. End it in the forest. I said, oh yeah, that's a good way to get killed. So, it was just one of those things where the story needed. I know I got a lot of notes where it's like it was a lot of setup, a lot of setup, a lot of setup. But it first I had to take you through the forest. I had to take you through that space so that you could understand what was happening. I had to kind of and the research on the Black Forest. If I put in the research on the Black Forest, the book would be twice as long. Yeah. So book 34 is when you're gonna get answers to the Sid Rattery, as Jeanette calls it, because it's just like there's a lot of things that are kind of coming to the forefront that won't get developed until later. There's stuff that happened in Shadow Peak that you won't see the results of, like what happened to Simon in Shadow Peak. I can't. Those of you who haven't read it, I can't say. But what happened to Simon in Shadow Peak doesn't come to fruition until book 33, and then in book 34, you get to see more of the answering about the ages and what happened. So it's there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that are happening. Yeah, I don't want to get killed or have Dolly sick on me. Either one. Yeah, Speed Racer saws. So that me and you are really dated. We're talking about Speed Racer saws, Chris, for sure. Let me just since the group is small, I'm just gonna give a blanket hello to everyone that's here on YouTube and on Facebook and wherever you may be watching us. So hello and welcome to the afternoon edition of the Mages and the MoB Kaffeeklatsch. Mages and Monsters edition, apparently. Yeah, so that's basically, and we're gonna skip a lot of the stuff today because we're just gonna go right into what's happening. They were very cool. They were very cool. And so, the book was supposed to be a 55K book. That's usually the goal. I usually have it's not a hard goal. I kind of leave room open for like if it needs to expand. And when I say needs to expand, I'm talking about 1,000 words, 2,000 words, maybe 4,000 words. This one topped off at 65.5K. And I was like, is this story, am I ever gonna, at some point I was like, am I ever gonna end this story? Like, what's going on here? Why, why does it still need more and more happening? But as I started getting in, when I finally got inside Shadow Peak, I started finally realizing, oh, there's so much backstory here that needs to be introduced, that needs to be presented in a way that's not an info dump. And I got to get them through the forest and into Shadow Peak and then through Shadow Peak and into the places they need to go to in Shadow Peak. It was like, wow. Jeanette, go get some sleep. Yes, and the book was incredibly feral, for sure. Thank you so much for popping in and saying hello. Get yourself some sleep. And so that was the case in terms of Mazes and Monsters. And if any of you are writing and you have a book go feral and you want me to help you kind of deal with how to deal with feral books, I've got pretty much a fair enough amount of experience with books going feral. And it's not a matter of preparation. Sometimes, because I outline all my books, and it's not even a matter of preparation. I have the notes for Mazes and Monsters, and I was going back to them and looking at them and making sure that I pretty much included everything I wanted in the book, everything I thought needed to be in the book. But then there were things that just came out of nowhere, like Dark Cats came out of nowhere, and the whole Jeanette, the whole Obun moment came out of nowhere. Like, I'm saying things that you won't be able to connect to until you read the story. But those of you who've been in the art understand. And it was just, and even Udolph surprised me. Like, these were things that were not in my notes that had but needed to be in the story. And this is what when I talk to authors about where you get your ideas, these are the kind of things that come up, that sometimes you're in the midst of a story and ideas will hit you and you don't know where these ideas came from. somewhere in your brain and somewhere in the ether, these ideas are kind of like percolating and waiting kind of for the right moment to slip into a story. And that's what happened here. And so I had a lot of these ideas that came in, which I had to vet to make sure, does this apply to this story, or does it apply to a story sometime in the future, or a completely different story? But they all applied to the story in different ways. I just didn't expect them to come all together at this story. I was like, what the? I'm never going to finish this book. I should have just wrote a haunted house story and call it a day, because that's what this came end up being. Haunted forest, haunted house. Like, wow. So how are you guys doing? So that was my adventure with mages and monsters. And poor Dolly had to suffer with me going through the changes in this book. It was something else. It was yeah, something else. Do you guys have any questions? Those of you who read it, is there anything that seems too difficult to understand? Like it might be hard to understand. Is your okay? I just wanted to see if it was still moving because yeah, I wanted to. Okay, so I know I put this in the mob somewhere where I was going to watch 1408, which I still have to watch, even though I have it. I think we have like 3 days left on the rental. We better watch it. We better watch it. I completely forgot it because I got so immersed in the story, right? So I was gonna watch 1408 to kind of get ideas for the interior of Shadow Peak, and I completely didn't watch 1408. I don't even know if we have it. I gotta check to see if we still have it. We just kind of threw that rental away. I tried to make it intense. I tried to make it like my perception and memory of all these haunted houses that I've read about, that I've walked through, things that seem off, or, you're in a house and the vibe feels a little bit weird, things like that. The energy that's in certain homes is palpable at times. And I try to convey that in the house, but it's really the experience of like Simon and Monty walking through the house, and then what happens to Monty, and then what happens to Simon. And I alluded to the next book, which is Deadeye. Welcome, 716 Archivist. I don't know your name, but I'm going to go by what your title is. I alluded to Deadeye in this story, and about a little bit about the history of Deadeye that's going to come up in the next book, which is Deadeye. And I tried to kind of throw in much an Easter egg, but it's kind of like a nugget to like, oh, so Deadeye has something to do with this. And so it'll be fun. That'll be fun. And you made it to the Kaffeeklatsch. Yes. Oh, it's Elizabeth. Welcome. And now I'm currently working on Mage Killers, the third book in the Division 13, which is the Pain Eaters. It's gonna be fun. I forgot how much fun Ronan was writing Ronan. Yeah, see, having lived in several haunted houses since childhood. Yeah, I've been in a few houses that you knew the energy was different. It wasn't what's considered a normal, that's even a thing, a normal house, but that there was a presence about the home, for sure. And so, like, you can walk into a home and there's a part of you that'll be like, ooh, something just feels off, and you're not comfortable. And there are places like that, not just in homes, but just places, areas. I hear Stonehenge is very much like that, like places of power have those kind of things, So I try to convey that within the story with Shadowpeak. You guys will tell me if I nailed it or not, if I made it or not. A lot of you are telling me that I nailed it. Yeah, you can feel the energy. It's really interesting if you're attuned to energetic environments. You would definitely feel the energy in certain places. And there are times when, even without being attuned to energy, you can walk into a place and you will feel like something's telling you this is not a good place for you to be. And you may not know, you may not be able to pinpoint why all of a sudden you're feeling uncomfortable, but this is not some place I need to be. And the same thing happens with people. Like sometimes you run into a person and you'll see at my gut feeling that whole comment of My gut tells me there's something wrong with this person, or I just didn't. There's a vibe. It's stuff like that. You pick up on the energy, and science is just catching up to all of this about energetic fields and what people call auras, all that stuff. It's just catching up. They've been just doing studies now proving what people have been saying for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years, that we all have energetic fields. Your heart and your brain has an energetic field, and that it can be sensed. So science is a little slow on a lot of things. Yeah, I'm glad. I think you'll enjoy it, Don. I'm trying not to spoil it because I know a lot of you haven't read it yet. Those are the only ones that have actually seen it are the ones in the art. So, and Patreon, yes, Patreon and the art, yes. So if you're in Patreon, you definitely have seen a lot of the story. Many chapters have they seen? Oh, okay. Depending on what tier you're on, you've seen different parts of the story. But yes, you've gotten access to it. Heather says my grandmother's house was definitely haunted. First house in the neighborhood, original owner and owned Uberland, also railroad track. Oh yeah, that's definitely a candidate for that. And I think it still does to this day, Audrey. The Great Pyramid vibrated with energy, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've read on the Great Pyramid in terms of like how it was built, where it was built, the latitude and longitude of where it is lines up with the numbers line up with so many different things. So it's like, a lot going on there that we still can discover about these places on the planet. Yes, well, science, what we call magic is, and what we call science can be seen as magic in other places, right? In different civilizations. The fact that you can pick up a phone, a device, if no one has ever seen a phone before, and you pick up your phone and you start talking to someone across the world, right? Instantaneously, that could seem like magic, Things like that appear, that are commonplace to us now, the same way I'm talking to all of you right now, would be like, if someone had never seen a computer, they would say, you have all these people in this box? Where? Where are all these people? How are you talking to them? It's stuff like that that makes it seem like magic. You have a canyon in your backyard. That is awesome, man. Just don't fall in it, but definitely explore it when you can. Elizabeth says, I just learned that my university's archive where I work has a history of happenings. Ooh, I don't get a negative feeling in the stakes, but thus far, that's just rather close here. You should definitely look into it and see what the happenings were. It should be interesting. If the energy has been keeping up, then stay out. From what I've studied and learned in terms of Native American, what's considered Native American mythos, there are a lot of places in this country that have stuff like that, and where the energy is still permeating and it's still there. I'm not an expert on Native American history or Native American mythos and how the shaman were attuned to the land, but they did have that concept of, that the earth has energy and that's stuff that you can tap into, for sure. Audrey says, I traveled all the way to Egypt, but couldn't go into the Great Pyramid. So, yeah, I've heard that about certain places with certain people where they get the sensation of ants crawling on their bodies, right? Like it's just too much and they can't go into certain areas, or they get shivers. So it's just a reaction to the amount of energy in a place. It's interesting. Don says a lot of ghost stories here. I would believe so. The South, especially South Carolina, like most of the South, but especially like places like around Louisiana, certain parts of Texas, like a lot of places in the South have a lot of that influence of like ghosts and paranormal activity and things like that. So it's possible that, these ghost things are happening. It's just that everything is energy. So it's just a matter of energy. Huh? Portland. Oh yeah, there were things in Portland. Yeah. It's on the show. If you watch Grimm, Portland was a hub of paranormal activity. And if you watch Supernatural, apparently the entire United States is a
tiny
little unknown town in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden all the supernatural activity is happening. Because it's like every episode of Supernatural had them going to some town which I had never heard of in the middle of nowhere. That is a real town. Yeah, because we would look them up, right? We would look up the towns, and these like real towns in the middle of nowhere, USA, and all of a sudden the worst kind of creatures exist there, which wouldn't surprise me when you think about it, because if there aren't that many people in a place and it's kind of left to its own devices in a way, I could see that kind of energetic buildup happening, you know? And so Chris says, if your gut feelings say to stay out, stay out. Again, science is catching up that we have two brains, apparently. This is not me saying it, this is what I've read. But hello, Connie, again. You get the brain up in your skull, and there's a brain in your stomach. It's not an actual brain, but it's just like your intuition and your gut and everything that happens. It kind of gives you feelings. You could tell these feelings. That's where the whole statement, my gut feeling, my intuition. Apparently, your body has another way of sensing things that happens a little lower in your stomach instead of your head. So, and that other saying is my heart wasn't in it. Again, it's another way of sensing things. It's kind of important to listen to your body sometimes. There've been so many people, so many stories that said, I just felt like I shouldn't be there. My gut feeling was I needed to leave, or I shouldn't have gotten on that plane, whatever the case may be. And in many cases, it saved lives. So it's an interesting field to kind of explore and see, yeah, well, there's a third brain a little lower down that gets you into trouble, for sure. That's very active. That's very active during your teenage years, for sure. One of my half-sisters, this is Jillian says, one of my half-sisters and her friends talked with a really bad spirit on a Ouija board. Oh, when she was young. I've heard stories about Ouija boards. I never really messed around with Ouija boards. But apparently they seem to function. I'm not getting a Ouija board. What? I'm going to sit there and start going, ooh, I just talked to them. That's it. No Ouija board needed.
Either that or my sister is messing with me.
I've been around people who've used Ouija boards, right? I haven't done it myself. And I thought, oh, they're just moving the thing. But apparently, no, it kind of just moves of its own volition. I haven't proven it. I haven't disproven it. I just know that Ouija boards, from what I've understood, Ouija boards can be a gateway to danger. So I stay away from them. That's what I've heard. And I've never really been called to play or use. It's not supposedly it's a game. I don't know about it being a game. I've been around Ouija boards. I've been around tarot cards. I've been around a lot of other things that are considered occult and supernatural. Many of them, if not all of them, have some kernel of validity to them that you need to really be careful with, because we seem to think that the dimensions that we see are the only dimensions that exist, but then there's so many things that are unexplained that you can't explain, that science can't explain, and that's been around for thousands of years, and we can't pretend to know everything about everything in this world. So yeah, stick with tarot cards. They seem to be safe. Like Chris says, I'll stick with tarot cards. I've seen tarot readers who, surprisingly, there's another one where when I was younger, my mom used to be able to do this, which is really interesting. Is you take a coffee cup, but then you let it drain almost to the bottom, then you turn it over, and you let what remains in the coffee, the liquid, you put it over a flame, and then the flame dries out the coffee, and then from what remains in the coffee, the lines of what's dried out, right? You could tell someone's future from that. I don't know how that one works, but from coffee, you would take it, turn it over a flame, like when you finish drinking, and the flame would burn out the coffee, and then what remained inside the cup, someone could read that and tell your future. No, no, don't do it right now. Thank you.
So you have a very promising authorial career.
Oh, thank you.
I see lots of books in your future.
Oh, wow.
Some books,
yeah,
maybe hard to get out. It'll be a challenging road.
Wow, so you have a gift for this stuff.
Challenging road. Some days will be darker than others.
Oh, really?
Some days you may not write.
Oh, man.
Some days will be very
productive.
Very productive.
You have like a gift for this. Wow. Yeah, and I can see why, because I hear that they're dangerous. Again, my personal experience, your mileage may vary because everyone has different experiences with supernatural activity and things like of that sort of the occult. So it's just a matter of what you go. But it's been my experience that Ouija boards can lead to dangerous things. You know? Chris says, I've written my readings for 40 years just to prove my, yeah. If you write it down and it starts coming to happen, you start reading, okay, there's something to this, right? Yeah, tea leaves is another one. It's like it's divination of a sort. Where, and again, this is not something that we're inventing right now. This is stuff that's been around for hundreds and not thousands of years. Uh, Trying to learn what's on the other side of the veil, in a sense, like what exists beyond what we can see. And I'll tell you what science has gotten closer to is the fourth dimension, which is time. And I was reading some of Einstein's work where, you have the three dimensions, which is height, width, length, and then when you add time, it changes everything. And Einstein was working on this about adding the fourth dimension to the three dimensions that we already know, and how that configuration of adding time completely upends what we consider reality. And that's where your thoughts come in, and how your thoughts and observations can start actually changing the perception of reality. And your thoughts influence what you create in terms of your reality. It's an amazing, like, that's when you start getting into quantum physics and how objects can exist in two places simultaneously. And there's a little bit of that in Mazes and Monsters when Monty starts explaining how Shadow Peak can be in Germany and in England at the same time. Made it, Enid. Welcome. So quantum physics can explain a lot of things, except that for quantum physics to be accepted, it has to be on a very, 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 very small scale, usually subatomic. But what's happening is that people are starting to see, these are people who are like, now we're talking about physicists, astrophysicists, quantum physicists are looking into it occurring at a much larger scale that we can easily perceive it without needing all the instruments that you need at a quantum physical level. And so quantum mechanics and quantum physics is starting to move into a realm where you're not just using the three dimensions, but you're using the fourth dimension of time and seeing if there are even more dimensions. And that's where you have, string theory and parallel universes and multi-universes and all this stuff that's coming in. Yeah. So Chris says, like, people who really believe in themselves and make it, yeah, I mean, the whole sphere of what manifestation is and all, it's basically, you can create what you want. Who was it that said? I think it was Henry Ford that said, whether you can or whether you can't, you're right. Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. Because what you say, the things that you say, if you say, I'm dumb, I can't do this is never going to happen, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the power of words influences your reality and influences your ability. And some of it may be that you're psyching yourself out so that things won't happen. But a lot of it is that the vibration of your words actually influence your ability to do something, to get something done. So whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right, because you create the outcome. And it's been proven. You see people who overcome incredible odds to get things done that no one thinks it's ever going to happen, but they get it done, and no one believes it until it happens. And so there's a lot to be said for the power of your words, for the power of your belief. There's a lot and this, again, science is just catching up. It's only a few thousand years late, but it's just catching up. So I tried to include a lot of that. I think that's another reason why this book took as long as it did, or it went viral, because there are a lot of concepts that are subtle that are in Mazes and Monsters. I mean, all of M&S has subtle concepts, right? Because it deals with mages and magic, and Simon's introductory and acceptance and growth within this world, and him trying to reconcile, him trying to kind of adapt to being thrust into this world with no experience whatsoever. So there's a lot of that in Monty Strong. But even in this particular book, a lot of it came out because more than usual, because it wasn't just Monsters Mage, and they stepped into a world, an actual environment, which was outside the norm. Like stepping into the Black Forest and then stepping into Shadow Peak took them out of, let's say, New York City, which is magical in its own way. It has a lot of interesting concepts. But to step into those worlds, like Black Forest and Shadow Peak, put them in the right in the middle of an environment that they couldn't really impact the same way because it was there before they even got there. In other words, the magic that Monty may access and Simon may access has nothing to do with the magic that already existed in these places, you know? So there's a lot of, yeah, like Chris was saying, there are a lot of layers in this book. It wasn't deliberate, I promise you. The layers just, what happened was that I would write about one thing, and then this is one of the dangers of writing, that you can end up going down so many rabbit holes that you end up completely different from what you thought you were going to end up, right? So I would write about one thing, like let's say the Black Forest, and then I would end up writing about, like, researching so many different things and why it's called the Black Forest and how many countries the Black Forest actually touch, because it not only touches Germany, but it touches France, and it's some of it is in France, some of it is in Germany, and have different histories and what armies went through these places. And the Black Forest has been around since the Roman times. There's like so much research going into that, and then I didn't want to get too much into the symbology of the Star of David, because that could be a polarizing and really sensitive subject. But the Star of David has only recently been known as the Star of David. It really is two triangles that have been used in so many. It's been used in Christianity, it's been used in Judaism, it's been used in Jainism, it's been used in Islam, it's been used in pagans. That symbol alone predates every religion that exists. It's just that different groups have appropriated it over time, but its real meaning, you have to go back so far to find the real meaning of that. The hexagram, which is what it's called. Yeah, let's see. See, I studied being an addiction counselor, and in my experience, I've seen, there have been a lot of remarkable things, and the mind is amazing when you really think about what's capable with your mind. Yeah, it's like the pentagram or the Nazi symbol. I was explaining this to the youngest Valkyrie, to Z, about the Nazi symbol, because she doesn't know the history of it. And I kind of wanted to share with her that symbols change meanings. And the Nazi symbol started in Hinduism. It was a symbol, like even if you go to India and you read up and you look at the ancient buildings of the Mughals, I believe it is. Mughals? Yeah, the Mughals. Their building is covered with what we consider swastikas, but they're not swastikas. They had a whole different meaning back then. The symbol was appropriated by Nazi Germany, and then it became an issue, So, and the same thing with the pentagram. The pentagram has been used in history. Like it goes back almost to the beginning of time when people make symbols, right? And one of the symbols you learn as a little kid is that star that you could just do. It's a 5-pointed star. It's a pentagram. And then different people use it for different things. Different groups have appropriated for different things, and then it takes on a meaning that's not the actual meaning, but it's the meaning that's been placed on top of it. So the Shadow Peak has a whole bunch of things there. Yeah, most of them go back to Sumerian times, because that was one of the first civilizations to start using that symbology. And then to go back to Sumerian times, now you're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years back. So you imagine the wonderful research I had to do for Witches and Monsters. It was so much fun. Oh yeah, all that homework. And that was another reason why this book took if I told you all the pages and notes that I had to go through and read and research and cross-research and reference and cross-reference and all this other stuff. Wow. It was just like, I've given myself so much work with just this one book. It was incredible. So now you know why I went Furo. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Moving on to other things. Pain eaters. And Ronin, that's going to be a lot of fun. I've been doing that. Let's see, what else do we have happening? Stone, poor Stone. Stone's feeling neglected, but because of Mages and Monsters, our production schedule has been blown up. So I got to go through the whole. It's gonna still be all the same stories, but the dates have been shoved and thrown and upheaved all over the place. So I'm gonna have to redo the production schedule. We have to redo it again. Look at the calendar and you know juggle and shuffle things around so that it works. And we're gonna have to move some books up. I think Frozen Fire, which is Fate of the Dark Mages, which was scheduled for September, is gonna have to move up because it's just it's too far away. And, it's just the way it is. We're gonna have to do that. Maybe we can do with exchange it with Divine Hell. Maybe do that. We'll put it in there. Yeah, it's a lot, Audrey. I'm sorry if I have to put you guys through, all that stuff to fact check, but it's a lot. Oh, Cecil's story. Did you send out the last? Did we send out the last part of Cecil's story? The last part of Cecil's story will go out the end of the month. I know I had it scheduled for the end of the month, so we're not quite there, Don, but it will be out. And then we'll send it out probably next week because the next week is the end of the month. So yes, my schedule is always in flux because I don't know what to tell you. Because here's the thing, I do things like a production schedule, and then in the middle of the production schedule, I'll get something like Dusk Blader coming into my head, and I have to write it. So hopefully, with a set production schedule, because this is set to the end of the year, mostly. To the end of the year, except for December. I'm trying to leave December open, but I'll have everything I need down. And also, there's a lot that's dependent on getting the covers properly from DDD. Like I don't have the covers for a few of these stories because they were so far out. So I got to make sure that DDD can provide the covers right away. Like for Frozen Fire, I don't have the cover yet, so I got to get that cover. And let's see, I think I have the covers for everything else. No, I don't have the covers for the Bangers and Mash, which is Mistaken Identity and Comedy of Eras. That's going to be, I have to get those done too. But everything else besides those three, I think I have the covers for. I don't know if I have Cold Girl. I have to look. Or Brew and Chew. I'm pretty sure I have the Brew and Chew covers. Pretty sure. So yeah, so the flux is part of, it has to have some flexibility to allow for things changing or things coming up. And it's interesting because as writers, authors, people seem to think that this just happens, boom, 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 And yes, you can have the ethic of I'm going to be there from 9 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, like a 9 to 5. But that doesn't mean you're writing from 9 to 5. A lot of it could be just coming up with ideas, or you're researching, or you're thinking, or you're trying out characters, or you're creating characters. So it's not necessarily that you're writing that whole time. And I read an interview on Nora Roberts. She's like that. She has that work ethic. She starts at 9 and she ends at 5. But it's not writing 9 to 5. I don't think any writer can do 9 to 5 writing continuously. I think you'd burn yourself out that way. But she blocks out that time for her writing. Like even in her house, no one bothers her in her house, but she's working. And from 9 to 5, she's at her computer or wherever her writing space is, and she's working. But that doesn't mean necessarily getting the words out, probably the computer or the typewriter or the keyboard. It means that she's in a space that's conducive for writing. And that could just be sitting there thinking about characters or characteristics. It could be creating a scene of a world and things like that. But at some point, the writing has to get done because Nora Roberts or J.D. Robb, she's both, is prolific. She has over 200 something books out. So there's something that works to her process, right? Yeah, you want to, like Chris is saying, you want to be in that writer zone. And getting in that writer zone, we all do it differently. Like sometimes I'll do current events and I'll look at current events, and sometimes the current events inspire me because there are things that are happening in the world that I can kind of then use in the story. Sometimes I'll play Destiny just to switch off the analytical part of my brain and just kind of get into a place. I've had ideas come to me in the middle of playing Destiny because your brain shuts off one part and another part turns on, and it's like almost like a creative aspect where you can start things start coming to you, and I've had to like stop and write ideas, and I'll put it on my phone and explore it later. So you kind of have to know how to hack your own brain in a way. Sometimes it is really doing the dishes. I'll be cleaning some dishes, and I'll have an idea come to me, and I'll just write it down. So it's a matter of like knowing how your brain functions and how to kind of sidestep the fail safes that are in there to prevent you from getting ideas or writing the ideas or developing ideas. Some people get it while they're driving. I've had it happen when I was driving. I had a great idea come from driving. Like, oh my God. So you got to pull over and write the idea. At least write the kernel of the idea down so you don't forget it. Because that's the other thing. I used to, long ago, before I learned, I would just say, I'll remember this idea. It hasn't happened yet. When I have an idea, if I have to write it down or else it doesn't, I lose it. It's weird, but that's how it happens. So I've had that happen. The only time I've had it where I remembered it was late at night when I'm about to go to bed. And I'll say, okay, I got to remember this idea, file it for the morning so that when I wake up, I'll write it down. But usually what I do now is I just take the phone that I have nearby and I'll write an idea, a treatment on that idea before I go to sleep. Let's see, bad guy's name. Chris says in my second book, bad guy's name came to me while driving. Yeah, that's how it happens, right? I'm sorry it's not cooperating, but it's replayed. Jillian, you'll be able to watch it later. Music and repeat shuts off that one part. Yeah, so when I write with, and I've said this in the past, I write with vocal chants, melodic vocal chants. And what that does is, I guess it creates a rave for the sensor in my head, and he just goes off and has a party while I sneak off and start writing the actual story. And so the music, and I'm sure someone has done a study on this, but the music has to disengage a part of your brain that allows the creative part to flow. I'm going to look into that because there are a few writers I know, and it's weird because there's some writers I know that can use music to write, and there's some writers I know that can need absolute silence to write, which has to be hard because absolute silence, I guess you'd have to get like noise canceling headphones and not have anything play. Some writers I know have like a Brain FM, which is it's a music that is attuned to your brain and kind of gets the creative aspect flowing. So we're all different in terms of that. But I know that for me, the music kind of gets the sensor to go have some fun. Go over there and dance. Let me write over here. Yeah, see, at a baby shower. So usually what happens, because I heard this also from Steven Spielberg, he said he gets his best ideas when he's driving. And usually what happens is as you're driving, you're engaged in something. And think about those of us who drive, right? When you first learn how to drive, you're focused on driving. I mean, you're like am I close enough to that other car? Do I have enough space? Am I going fast enough? Am I going too slow? I'm stepping on the gas the right way? Am I signaling? All this stuff that your brain has to kind of be aware of while you first learn to drive, which all of a sudden goes to the background after a while when you become an experienced driver. You no longer focus on those things as much or at all, actually. I mean, I've had moments where I've had ideas and I've driven home and not remembered how I drove home because I'm on autopilot. I'm thinking about something. I'm aware of what's happening, but your brain it's not multitasking so much as it is the driving's on autopilot because you've done it for so long. And here's a creative idea that you should think about and develop right now as we're driving. And so I've been driving for so long that for me, driving can be like a non-brainer in the sense of my brain isn't actively engaged in what I need to do to drive because it's inherent in what I do. I get behind the wheel, I'm not thinking about how to do this anymore. So my brain is free to do other things. And I think that's what Steven Spielberg was saying about he gets his best ideas while he's driving because driving ties up his brain in something else, right? But he can also relax and the creativity can come through. It's an interesting concept. And I'm sure, same thing with music, driving, activities that engage your brain in a certain way, I guess almost like repetitive activities and activities that you internalized can free up the creative aspects of your thinking. And I think that's what happens when you're like doing dishes or in the shower or driving. your brain is engaged in other things that allow your creativity to be expressed. Driving is really one of those. Yeah. See, like Enos is my best. For me, driving is relaxing. Almost, yeah, it's almost a Zen thing. It's like you're there, but you're not there in a way. Now, I'm not saying be distracted while you're driving, but driving is really much. It's a mental thing where your mind is not actively engaged in driving anymore because you've done it for so long. I mean, I've been driving since I was 19. So I've been driving for a long time. 58 now. So imagine. Yeah, you zone out. The problem is when you zone out and then you don't see what's going on around you. That's a problem. And then here's the other, okay, the flip side of that is you can be driving normally and your awareness is so wide that you could see a problem coming way before it's coming and avoid it while you're driving. Because I've done that. I've gotten out of lanes or seen cars coming a little too fast, you know? And it's like a weird, your awareness spreads out to such a degree that while driving, you could kind of foresee what's going to happen. I'm not saying you're telling the future, but you kind of see the actions of people. They're taking things that look risky. And you say, it may be a good idea to get out of the way. And so you're aware, almost passively, you're aware. It's like a passive radar in a sense. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got to watch out for deer and cows because those things, it's like instantaneously you got to, watch out for those. Okay. It's 140, which means 120, which means we got questions. 10 minutes. Okay, let's get to the questions. You ready? You ready for the questions, baby? Okay. Chris asks, Orlando, roller coaster or Ferris wheel? Roller coaster. I don't go on them anymore, but when I did, roller coaster, I couldn't choose a Ferris wheel because Ferris wheel's it's just slow. I guess if you want to see the park and you just want a nice slow, and you're with your date, I guess that's a nice kind of thing. You go up there and it's slow. But it's always been roller coaster for me. Dolly, same question. Roller coaster or Ferris wheel? Dolly's definitely a Ferris wheel. She hates roller coasters.
Why?
Why do you hate roller coasters? They're fun.
Why?
The thrill of the roller coaster is the fear that they induce.
Why?
When you get to that first,
Why would I want fear?
that
It makes
first,
no sense.
Are you kidding?
I do not want fear.
There wouldn't be a horror movie industry or horror story industry. People love fear.
Exactly. I
So
do not.
the thing is,
definitely not.
the thing is, the fear is controlled fear. That's why it's so popular because people like being scared in a sense where they still have control over the fear, which is what a roller coaster or a horror story is. You can be scared,
a roller
but you
coaster,
have control.
you do not have control.
It's the appearance of control.
Exactly.
But it's control of a sort. Because you're determined to go on the roller coaster. You're choosing.
There's so many factors that can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
On a roller coaster that are completely out of your hands.
Well, that's true. That's true for driving too.
Oh, driving, at least I'm the one moving the car. I'm not driving. I have nothing. I'm just a passenger in the roller coaster.
Is Chris right? It's the zero gravity effect that females hate. The females hate that floaty feeling.
I like floaty feeling. Oh, I love it when airplanes depart.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
That's like a roller coaster.
No, that's more like 2G.
Yeah.
Right when it starts taxing up and lifting, and it lifts.
Oh, it's going on. Right.
There's a few minutes when it's lifting.
Right.
So you're really heavy.
You're pushed into the seat. Yeah.
I love that.
That's the opposite of a roller coaster. That's the opposite of a roller coaster.
It's very calming.
Yeah.
It's actually very soothing. It's like a weight blanket.
Yeah, that's the opposite of a roller coaster. Because roller coasters make you feel floaty, like you're gonna float out of the roller coaster. And
I don't want to be upside down. I don't want my glasses falling off.
And take off is you feel heavy. Right.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to wear glasses on the roller coaster. You lose them if it goes upside down.
Okay, so I can't enjoy the view from up high.
Okay, so Dolly, definitely Ferris wheel. Me, roller coaster, for sure. Let's read Audrey's questions. Okay. Audrey asks, and thank you guys for these amazing questions because, as you can see, they spark conversation. Have you ever considered writing under a pseudonym, and why or why not? Okay, I did early on consider it because I was thinking of writing different stories. The thing is that when you write under a pseudonym, and I don't say never, but for me it's easiest to write under my own name, right? And even my name, the name that I use, the Orlando A. Sanchez, is kind of a pseudonym because even though I do have a middle name, I don't use it anywhere else except in the writing. So, but writing under a pseudonym, you have to create this whole world around the pseudonym, like so people know you as whatever the name you're using. And if you're doing it to hide, sooner or later you're gonna get uncovered. Someone's gonna out you, and then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the pseudonym to begin with. So I figured, let me just write the way I using my name, and everybody knows, and it's easier. And then Orlando Sanchez writes these kind of books, and he just writes, and and it's easier for me. It's easier to manage. I don't have to manage different accounts. I don't have to manage different personas, and it makes life easier for me. That's the only reason why I didn't write under a pseudonym. If I were ever to write erotica or some kind of really sensitive, it's a real sensitive kind of writing.
Brain, Chris.
I would use a pseudonym then, if I were to write erotica or something like that. Only because I don't know yet.
You want to tell us?
So no, what would I tell you? The whole point of a pseudonym is so nobody knows who you are. That's the whole point of the pseudonym. So I would not write. I would not let anyone know the pseudonym. Maybe Dolly, depends. Maybe she might out me too. So that's the only reason, Audrey, I've never ever considered using a pseudonym, because it's a hassle. You have enough to deal with as an author in terms of what to keep track of and where you put yourself, and where people can find you and all of that. So yeah, no, pass on that. Dolly, what's the worst advice anyone gave you?
It was to not struggle, not strive, because then you basically have no complaints. There's no discomfort. You're essentially content. When I first heard that, I thought, what the fuck? That's like stupid. Why would you not be ambitious? Why would you not strive for something more, something else? Then I sort of fell into noticing how, when in fact, into how when you don't have any demands, when you don't look for things that you don't necessarily need, you really find a way to be content, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it became, I had to sort of reconcile the idea of at which point am I giving up, and at what point or in what circumstances, situation am I being satisfied and content,
yeah,
versus giving up.
Which two very different things. It's
actually a very fine line between giving up
and being content,
and realizing when that is so. It's like when you settle for something versus
choosing to be content.
Versus choosing the situation, that the situation is as is,
right,
and letting it be.
That's a good point.
So I guess it was a bad advice because it threw me off for a while, and it's still something I think about.
Mm-hmm.
But I allow it to sort of be a guide as I ask myself, am I giving up right now?
Right.
Am I just choosing not to do anything because what's the point? The situation's not going to change, get any better, or it's too hard, or should I actually be doing something?
That's a really good great answer, by the way. That's a really good question in terms of, the question is, what is giving up and what is being content? Because sometimes we think we're being content with something, and what we're doing is really giving up. And
it's no expectations.
Right.
We have no expectations and no complaints.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the very Buddhist way of sort of.
Yeah, it's very Zen.
Right, it's very Zen. You notice how things are. You be mindful of it. You be accepting of it, and then sort of let go
Expectations.
Expectations and bad feelings. But at the same time, you remain committed,
Mhm.
but not attached to a result.
Right.
So in a way, you can still seek something more while not being attached.
Yeah, it's very much being appreciative of the journey without worrying about the outcome. In terms of like you can strive for things and realize that it's not so much getting the end result, but the fact that who you become as you strive it, as you're like the person that you have to become to attain what you want to attain is more important than what you're going to attain. It's that transformation of who you become as a person to get those things. Usually, what you find out is that at the end, you don't even need those things as much as who you become as a person has changed so much. It's very deep, very zen. Yeah, it's great. Wow, wow, I'm feeling transformed right now.
Don't forget to check out the Creative Warrior Wisdom.
Perfect segue.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, CWWs. Don't forget to create the Creative Warrior Wisdom. That's a great segue. Okay, last question. Audrey asks, "What Orlando? What is your go-to comfort?" I'm not the person to ask for that because my whole diet has become meat right now. Steak is what I would say, but that's always been a comfort. The person you need to ask is Dolly. Dolly, what's your go-to comfort food?
Oh my god.
Yeah, so you heard that? You heard that answer? Oh, oh my God. If you're discussing food, the person you need to speak to is Dolly. Dolly. Foods. Not food, it's foods. What are your go-to comfort foods? Plural.
Whatever I can make that moment. If I don't have it at home, I'm making something.
Yesterday, let me interrupt. Yesterday, she's eating celery and carrots, and she has a hummus sauce, right? Plain hummus, and thinking, oh, that's not bad. That's not good enough for her. She went back. She added this interesting sriracha spicy thing. So the sauce was here, and she's eating it. It disappeared, and then it came back completely transformed. It was all red and hummusy, and all. And she's like mixing it around, and that's what she does with food. She creates these amazing experimental things that just taste really good. So she has a lot of comfort foods that she creates in the moment. A lot of them, right? Just like you start thinking about what can I add, what can I put.
Anything that tastes good. No, everything is.
Oh yeah, you ate.
Food is comfort
food. Yeah, she's a food.
Everything.
There are people that are foodies. I don't know if the term is right. She loves food.
But if you're talking classic comfort.
Yeah,
food,
classic comfort foods.
You know, anything that's super fatty and calorific.
Fatty, calorific,
and starchy,
right? And starchy.
Potatoes.
Things that I no longer eat. So
yes.
She's eating all the foods that I don't eat vicariously. I'm living my eating vicariously through Dolly because all I eat basically now is meat, and I do but I do bananas.
I would not survive.
No.
I'd rather be dead.
Yeah, she would not.
The way you eat.
The way I eat is a complete antithesis to the way she eats. She wouldn't survive eating that way because what I eat, the way I eat, is like I'm a monk at this point. You know, for me, my relationship with food has always been very different than most people. For me, food, I enjoy it, but I just view it as fuel, right? It's just like I need the food to survive, but I don't derive the amount of pleasure my Dolly derives from eating food is extraordinary. Amazing. And also, when she hasn't had something to eat, you know those Snicker commercials where you're not yourself when you're here having Snickers because you're not yourself when you're hungry? Yeah, it's really evident when she hasn't eaten something. She gets, it's like, so I know when she hasn't eaten. And so I make sure that she can eat and it's never been an issue. She loves eating. From the first day we met, I knew that about her. She loves eating. She loves food. And it doesn't matter what kind of food, as long as it's tasty food. And yes, Don, I sound like Peaches because Peaches is a big, big part of me. Meat is life. And it's become more so now when I have to take care of my health, that meat is life. So it's interesting how meat has become a staple in my diet because meat is life. And she's like, anything is life. Any food is life. And that's, yeah, I don't do that. For me, comfort food is like good meat, good, like a good steak, a good ribeye. She made some steak the other day. She cut it into strips and seasoned it. Oh, it was, yeah, that's my, and I don't really have comfort food. I don't use food as a comfort. Oh my God, Chris, thank you. We're almost done. We have indie authors to promo. Yes, as always. Okay, so 80 Starling. It all started with a bite. She has her book up, Werewolf, Reluctant Werewolf. So let's show this. Chris, we both forgot. That completely slipped my mind. Jeez. Here it is. It all started with a bite. There's the link. Please go. It's on Amazon. It looks like it's up and available now. So please go there. Thank you, Chris and Audrey, for your fantastic questions. You guys are amazing. I appreciate all the questions. Heather says my significant other's a foodie, so food adventures and stew together. Yeah, I can imagine. I will taste stuff, but I'm not. Dolly's in a whole is in a category by herself, and it's not just her whole side of the family. Same way. I mean, you don't understand the amount of cooking that goes on when her family's visiting. The kitchen is on active the whole day. There's something happening. Either food is being made, or there's been shopping for food. There's planning. It's like nonstop, which is amazing. It's amazing to see the transformation. Rob and Joan Carter, amazing people. They're really great. The Hill of a Sacrificed Soul, available now, 99 cents. It's on Amazon. The sale price until tomorrow. So go get it at 99 cents. And they're both out today, so go get it. Let's see. I had strawberry cheese. When I used to eat sugar, and I haven't eaten sugar for a while, actually. Strawberry cheesecake, oh, awesome. We have, what is it, Baby Watson's? What's the name? I think it's Baby Watson's cheesecake. I used to eat that a long time ago. Raspberry Danishes from Entenmann's, chocolate chip cookies from Entenmann's. Entenmann's had this cake, which was, the banana cake. It was banana crumb cake with the chocolate on top. I used to get it. You probably don't remember. So Entenmann's and me, we were like this. We were tight. We were friends. We were really, really, really close. Okay, me and Entenmann's like this. Apple pies from Hostess. You guys are young. Hostess used to have. So I used to be able to buy these for 50 cents. Now we're talking about a lot of years ago. There were these little square. There's 2 squares in a pack. Square apple pies with apple filling inside. Oh my God, those things were so good. So good. Let's see, what else did I used to eat? M&Ms. Me and M&Ms, we were close a long time ago. Peppermint patties. Again, we were really close. And Hershey's Kisses. Those were a danger to me. I could eat those like crazy. Those are all kind of comfort foods that I can no longer enjoy or eat because I have to watch out for my body and sugar. So the harder part was how did I stop eating sugar, basically? And I'll tell you how I was able to do it. See, Dolly says there's no way she could live, she could eat the way I ate, right? If you experience the pain of gout, like full-blown gout, that it keeps you bedridden, that you can't walk, you can't put pressure, you can't even touch the area because it's so painful, and you realize that it's because you eating too much sugar, you would stop eating sugar. Like I was able to say, well, I still have a whole container of dark chocolate Hershey's Kisses in the kitchen, this big, full of Hershey's Kisses, and I look at that and I go, nope, because the pain of what you go through with the gout when you have a G flare is so much worse than the pleasure you get from eating dark chocolate or any chocolate or whatever. It doesn't even register for me. Now, the transition from getting rid of carbs to eating mostly meat, that is hard. That's much harder than getting rid of the sugar. Because carbs, This is my opinion. I don't know if it's true, but I think we get addicted to carbs, like the bread and the pasta and the rice. I mean, I need to have rice with every meal. Remember, I was always rice was like you can't. First of all, I'm Latin. You can't have food, Latin food, without rice. It just doesn't compute. So I needed rice with everything. And now it's like, nah, I don't. No, I'm not. I'm good. I don't eat rice. I don't eat rice. I don't eat bread. I don't eat grains. I don't eat pasta. It's radical, but I have felt good. Yeah, so it's been awesome. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you guys posted. Okay, I need a number from 1 to 10 because it's 12, not 12 anything. It's 1:40 and we're done. So we need to kind of close it up for the weekend. And yeah, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being here at the later hour of 12:30 to 1:40. Um, see, it just seems a little late for me to do it this late. I like the 11:30 hour more. I enjoy that time more, probably because I'm used to it. But from 1 to 7, not 1 to 10, 1 to 7. Sorry, 1 to 7. Kind of says I'm picking where I get my donuts. Oh, donuts. Me and Dunkin' Donuts were
Boston cream.
Boston, the Dunkin' Donut Boston cream. Oh my God, I can still taste it. I can still taste it. Um, there are two in Ohio, one in Bloomington, Indiana, and Voodoo Donuts. Yeah, here we just have Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme and Entenmann's.
It's a
Entenmann's.
donut plant also.
Oh, the donut plant? Yeah, but for me it was Dunkin' Donuts or Entenmann's. I never really Krispy Kreme was too sweet for me. Have a great weekend and have a fantastic weekend. So anyone goes, before y'all go, remember my 3 B's. Be kind, be unstoppable, be uncommon. All right? Have an amazing weekend, all of you. Enjoy the rest of the today. The weather's turning nice in the place. I mean, at least here in the East Coast, it's turning nice. I'm sure throughout the country, it's getting nicer everywhere since we're entering summer. And have a great rest of your day and week that's coming next week. We'll talk again, and we'll discuss more mages and monsters. A really deep conversation today, and we went very zen, which is awesome. Thank you so much for showing up, Elizabeth. Welcome to your Kaffeeklatsch, that you were able to make one, which is fantastic. Welcome to have you. Glad to have you here, which is awesome. All right, what are the numbers, babe? Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, the notification bell on YouTube because it really does help the algorithm. It helps the channel get discovered even more. I already have my 2 CWWs. I have one more to do today, so I'll do that later. I'm trying to keep the algorithm going. Okay, what's the number we have? I see 10, 6, 4, 3.
4, 6, and 10.
Okay, 10 doesn't count, Chris. It's 1 to 7. I said 1 to 10. I know, it's my bad. So 1 to 7, please. 1 to 7. I don't know where I got 10 from. So yes. So everyone have a great, great day. We got 7. Okay, we got 7. Let's see. 6, 4, 3, 7.
You're doing an average 5.
Yeah, I know. You heard 10 because I said 10.
I said 5, so it's 5.
Okay, I said 5. All right. So, all right, let's pick one. Pick one of these. Yes, you heard 10 because I said 10. It's not on you, definitely on me. Okay. It's Peaches of the Caribbean. All right, guys, I'm gonna take off my comments real quick. Take off my scary face and put on Peach's gorgeous face, handsome face. Okay, let's just do this. It's getting laggy.